Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Bill from Open Door Baptist Church in Morehead City, and thanks for coming back for another word of encouragement. These are weekday videos that we're putting out to give us all a telescope, really, to get our eyes off of what's going on directly around us in the world, all of the temporary and small discouragements and distractions, and to look through this telescope of God's encouraging words to see the magnificence and the largeness of God brought up close, that we might rejoice and be stabilized in Him. And so today we're going to continue our pattern of taking a look at the next passage in our E100 reading plan, and that is Genesis chapter 42. In Genesis chapter 42, at this point, a famine has come upon the land, and we will find that Joseph is in Egypt, and he has been brought there in order to secure the salvation of many, many people in the land. And so we'll pick up in verse 5, where we read that the sons of Israel were among those who came to buy grain from Egypt, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Joseph was in charge of the country, and he sold grain to all his people. His brothers came and bowed down before him, and their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to them. "Where did you come from?" he asked. "From the land of Canaan to buy food," they replied. Although Joseph recognized him, his brothers, they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the weakness of the land." Well, here we have finally, after years and years of waiting, after years of perhaps Joseph wondering if he himself was a bit unstable mentally, to think that God had given him dreams about reality, about what actually was, being thrown into a pit by his brothers, being sold to Midianites who took him off to a foreign land, being exalted in the house of Potiphar, and then once again his life being taken from him and thrown into the pit, only to be exalted again up out of the pit, out of the grave really, and given new clothes and being exalted to a sovereign status. After all of that, Joseph has the sight of his brothers coming to him and bowing down before him. The dream finally coming to fruition right before his eyes. And he remembers that God has been with him, God has spoken to him, and God's word is sure and stable and eternal. It is infallible, and it will come to pass. You see, in all of that turmoil, Joseph had this word from God. These, to him, what were dreams, God speaking to him. God was with him, and this was the reality of the situation, not what his eyes were telling him were going on around him. Joseph was no mere prisoner. He was no humbled and destroyed man, just waiting his death in prison. No, he was being used by God, and God was with him. He was a son, an adopted son of God. This was the reality that God had laid out before, and no matter what the circumstances were around him, now Joseph sees that that was the truth and the firm reality all along. Well, I hope this encourages you also to look to God's word as firm truth and stability, no matter what the circumstances are in your life today. Be used by God. Be available to be used for the salvation of many as you proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ today.